How many four-letter words can I use on that?
Transfers to a double. Cheddar is driving. Nothing yet. Takedown. Michael Cheddar.
Oh, Nick, I'm a top guy, so I love top wrestling.
Hale trying to stick him. He does. Maximus Hale the fall.
So I think that wrestling is the greatest sport on earth.
What's going on, everybody? Another edition of On3 Wrestling here. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and I'll tell you what, the coaching news slowed down a little bit in terms of the movement, going across the landscape of college wrestling. It just picked up here on this Tuesday. Donny Pritzlaff, Rutgers associate head coach, is off to Columbia. He is reportedly taking the Columbia head coaching job. Multiple reports came out, and head coach Scott Goodell pretty much just confirmed that on Twitter as well. So big opportunity for Coach Pritzlaff after 10 years of being, the de facto second in command, but one of the integral parts of Rutgers wrestling over the last decade. And the other piece of news was Hayden Hidlay going from North Dakota State as an assistant coach to Stanford. He's going to take the assistant job out west under Chris Ayers. So we'll dive into both of those moves, but we got to start, of course, with Coach Pritzlaff, who I've known for the last 10 years now, broadcasting for Rutgers. And you look at what he's accomplished as a coach, as a wrestler, two-time NCAA champion from Wisconsin, world bronze medalist, you name it, one of the best technicians and recruiters out there in the sport of college wrestling. He's going to be missed in Piscataway. And Columbia nailed this hire. This has been a rumor, I believe, over the last few weeks, if not the last month or so, that they were zeroing in on Coach Pritzlaff. And, if you know Donny, he's as good as they come, as loyal as they come, and, as intelligent as they come when it comes to this sport. And he's going to be moving on to Columbia. Again, it was a little, I would say, to the general fan base, a bit of a surprise that he would leave, considering what could happen down the line in the future if he was eventually going to take over Rutgers, or if he was going to wait out for a different opportunity, because this is a guy who's been sought after as a head coach. There was always rumblings, back, go back years ago. Was he eventually going to take over his alma mater, Wisconsin, at one point? He ended up at Michigan, but then he comes over to Rutgers, where, I believe Coach told the story on a recent podcast. He said how he was able to get Pritzlaff from Michigan to come back home to New Jersey and to coach Rutgers alongside him. And again, the last decade, he's been integral to the success for the Scarlet Knights in the Big Ten. They just joined the Big Ten when he became the associate head coach and was brought onto the staff. And he was big in the recruitment of Anthony Ashnall. He was big on getting Nick Suriano into the program when he transferred from Penn State after 1 year. Other big recruiting wins. But if you look at the corners of Nick Suriano and Anthony Ashnall, a big part of that influence into those guys winning national titles in 2019 for Ashnall to cap off his college career, and for Suriano to finally win the national title. Pritzlaff was a huge part of that. He's a big part of the development within the room. So that's going to be the biggest question for Rutgers moving forward, is who do they get to replace him? They have a great staff in place right now with Steve Minnich and Joe Pollard. Obviously, Jeff Buxton is there in the SKWC capacity. Coach Goodell has been at this a long time. He knows the landscape. There's already a national search underway, according to what's been reported already as of Tuesday morning. So I'm eager to see where Rutgers goes, and I'm eager to see how Pritzlaff mans an Ivy League job. The Ivy League is changing in terms of how they're going to stand out in the college wrestling world. They're going from the EIWA to their own individual tournament. I actually talked to Princeton head coach Joe Dubuque about that. You can catch that on the YouTube channel as well. And, of course, you can find that at on3.com. But he's, a guy like that is excited for an Ivy League tournament to showcase all these teams where, you're going to get the best of the Ivy League, and they're really going to hammer at each other, I would say, so to speak, ahead of NCAAs. But, Cornell, Princeton, and you throw Columbia in the mix now, how they're going to rebuild under Coach Pritzlaff. They were 5-8 last year. They went through a coaching change, and then now, this is a guy who is going to have to build his own staff. And there are rumors out there right now, and you don't want to speculate too much about who might be going with him on the staff that may be Rutgers related or Jersey related. And you don't really want to speculate too much on who Rutgers would go after to replace Pritzlaff on their staff, whether it's going to be an internal promotion for associate head coach? Do they go out and swing for the fences for a big gun? I know there's plenty of big names that are thrown out there on forums, Facebook, and social media all over the place. So who knows where they go? It's going to be, they are going to be big shoes to fill. It's a very attractive opening, whether it's an internal hire or they go out and get somebody, whether, Goodale and the rest of the staff go out and get somebody, again, being an associate head coach of a Big Ten program, a really good Big Ten program that is, usually in the top half of the best wrestling conference. It's tough to turn that down if you're going to go from, let's say, a volunteer spot, or you haven't been in coaching the last year or two. You're going to go from assistant job to essentially the associate head coach of the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. But I'm eager to see how Pritzlaff builds his team at Columbia in the Ivy League. They'll have the capabilities of the NYC RTC just nearby. So, again, as a Jersey native, doesn't have to go far, goes right up to New York. It's right there. He came back to Jersey for a reason. He's a Lyndhurst legend, again, a three-time NJ state champion, one of the best New Jersey wrestlers of all time. He's going to be recruiting. He's going to be going all out as a guy who can sell his vision for a program. And again, I know it's Ivy League, and then the academics are a big forefront of that, and the transfer portal works a little bit different. But I could see Columbia instantly competing with some of the guys they've already had and the guys they've brought in the past, that this team could compete in the Ivy League pretty much right away, with the likes of Cornell, with the likes of Princeton. And you got Brown and Harvard in there as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do. So big congratulations to Donny. He was awesome to me when I was a student at Rutgers, just starting out as a student broadcaster, especially for the wrestling team. And he's been nothing but great to me and the rest of my colleagues since I was a student, and then since I became the professional voice of the team. So personally, I wish him really well, and he's been awesome to me. There's really no bigger and better representative of New Jersey and Rutgers over the last 10 years than Donny Pritzlaff. He's been awesome. Can't say that enough. So I'm eager to see what he's going to look like now in the Columbia blue and those powder blue shirts and the dark grays. And he's going to turn that program around really fast. I think they're going to be a competitor in the Ivy League quite quickly. So looking forward to that. And then the other piece of big news was Hayden Hidlay is going to go over to Stanford out west. Chris Ayers is going to go into his second year at Stanford. Ryan Deacon stepping down as the assistant coach. He is going to pursue other opportunities outside of wrestling. So that paved the way for Hidlay, and it's a big hire for a guy who was a five-time All-American at NC State. One of the best wrestlers in Wolfpack history. I believe he's tied for third all-time in the wins list. He had 110. We just saw his brother Trent stick around now at the Wolfpack RTC to keep pursuing his Olympic dreams. So Trent's been wrestling at a really high level. The family is great. And now Hayden's going to be stepping up as a assistant coach for Stanford. He was at North Dakota State last year. Did quite a good job. And, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Hayden actually stopped wrestling competitively after his final collegiate season. He went right into the coaching realm and didn't really want to compete at the international and freestyle, or the senior level scene, I should say. But he's one heck of a coach. He is one heck of an addition to Stanford as they've rebuilt. And they rebuilt kind of fast when Ayers took over last year. Had some All-Americans, and they had a great tournament out in Kansas City. And now they're adding Hayden Hidlay, a guy who's going to fit in right with those middleweights in that program. That's going to be awesome to watch. So rooting for Hayden Hidlay as well, one of the good guys in the sport. Big addition to Stanford. And then you just circle back, the coaching movement is just nonstop this summer. So now North Dakota State has a spot to fill, and then you go back to Rutgers, where then that could be a very attractive opening for either a big name hire or however they are going to maneuver it with the guys they already have in house in terms of the staff and the SKWC. And Coach Goodale, I'm sure him and the rest of the administration were preparing for this, as a guy like Donny Pritzlaff was approached by Maryland just 5 years ago. The job ended up going to Alex Clemson. I believe it was Pritzlaff who turned it down first, and then ended up going to Alex Clemson, who's done one heck of a job rebuilding Maryland, especially the last couple of years, where they're starting to rise up now in the Big Ten, not be that, the team that's just there in the Big Ten, that extra team in the Big Ten. He's brought a lot of respectability back to Terrapins wrestling. They were on display during the Big Ten tournament just this past March, I should say, when they hosted it. So Clemson's done a great job right there. But when you see a guy like Pritzlaff turn down a Power 5 job, a Big Ten job, and stay at Rutgers, and then, of course, the pandemic happened, so a lot of things changed throughout the sport, but he stuck around, and he wanted to stick around in New Jersey, stick around at Rutgers. It really opened up some eyes, and you're thinking maybe he's just going to be, he's going to be a pairing with Coach Goodell for, the rest of his career or eventually takes over or however it works. But so it was interesting to see that this finally happened now. But it was only a matter of time. Pritzlaff is one of the worst kept secrets in college wrestling, and Coach Goodell has been nothing but complimentary of Pritzlaff and what he's meant to the program and how good he is as a coach. And we've heard it from numerous other people in wrestling media how good this guy is, and kind of shocked that he hasn't had a head coaching job quite yet. But he's had multiple stops, including Wisconsin and Michigan. And now, of course, Rutgers the last 10 years, and he'll be taking over this coming fall/winter at Columbia. Not too far from Rutgers. Who knows if they're on the schedule? I know the schedules are trying to be finalized for the collegiate wrestling season. Of course, the Big Ten has to finalize their schedule as well. But that'd be something if Rutgers and Columbia actually do go at it in a dual meet this year. Rutgers and Princeton already going at it every year as a rivalry, the Big Ten Ivy League rivalry. And of course, you saw Rutgers legend Anthony Ashnall go over to Princeton as an assistant coach under Dubuque for this coming season. So that already has some intrigue. And if Rutgers adds another Ivy League team in Columbia to the schedule, or if they're going to be on there, whether it's at Columbia or they come to Jersey Mike's Arena, that's just going to be it'll be a nice welcome home for Pritzlaff. I would expect a warm welcome for the Jersey legend as well. So be sure to like and subscribe this video. Follow me on Twitter, and of course follow On3 on all social channels. Check out our content at on3.com as well. Another edition of On3 Wrestling in the books. We'll see you next time.